Welcome everyone. Class is in session. Professor here. Everyone shut the fuck up. Quiet. Class is in session. My mom is at the doctor just for a checkup, and so I thought I'll bust out a podcast as I wait for 30 minutes. So I'll entertain you with a bizarre thought experiment. I've been thinking this for a while now. Suppose, and probably it's residual of the fact I just watched Me, Myself, and Irene, which probably could have never been made today. But yeah, I never watched it when it came out, and probably for the right reason. Ain't that something? I mean, suppose if it came out if I watched it when it came out, right? I probably would have hated it, and now I love it. And it's been what in the 90s, 94, 95, I don't even know, but it's been what a good 20 plus years, and I think the time was just right. That's why everything I believe, everything has a ripe and right time. Tithi, I think that's what they call the Indians. Like they like marriage. It's like astrology. It's like they like chart. Like if or like some other cultures. Like everything has to have astrology. Who believe in astrology? But anyways, I'm veering off topic. So let me entertain you with a thought experiment. And probably, as I said, it's residual of me and myself and Irene. Who knows? And also, the concept of Siamese twins fascinate me, as well as the concept of Jekyll and Hyde, which is not schizophrenia though. People think the schizoid personality. That's actually multiple personality disorder, I think. And me, myself, and Irene actually gets it right, although it'll never maybe see the daylight. The script probably today. Who knows? Maybe Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey. If there is another Jim Carrey nowadays, the new Jim Carrey, he could get away with it. Like I mean, Ali GM, Sasha Baron Cohen is still still pushing the envelope. So imagine a transgender woman or person, man, with multiple personality disorder, decides to give himself or herself fellatio without consent. Would that be a crime? Would that be a rape crime? Would that be legally binding if he chooses to sue one person or one personality? Let's just call that person okay. So we have Jack and Jill. Jack is transgender woman, and who's Jack, and he has multiple personality disorder. Who thinks he's she Jill, and decides to give himself fellatio. I don't know how he manages to do it, but one weird guy actually mimed it like in a huge and an interesting contortionist. And when I was growing up in South Africa at school, and he was just doing it for laughs. He was like a class clown, like a buffoon, mostly that. Those like he was literally like a jester, crowd jester, court jester, like back in the days of Lubeck the Prodigy. Look up Lubeck the Prodigy. In German and in antiquarian, not even antiquarian times. I'm talking about in the post Renaissance times in Germany. There were a lot of all these sort of shows, freak shows, carnivals, and Lubeck Prodigy or Human Calculator and all those things. I think it was big in Germany. Who knows? Probably in Europe, France. The Tark. I don't know when the Tark came out. The chess playing Tark. Probably that was in Victorian invention. I don't know. Just look up the date. Or probably earlier. I think it was a Victorian thing. So yeah, going back to thought experiment, would that be anything? Would that be even legally binding? Would court dismiss it, like without even giving him any or her any proper hearing? Now, is it possible a person can be transgender? Yes. You might say, "Oh, this is such a weird, unusual, obscure example," but it has some legal precedence and gross implications. Can a person be a transgender? Yes. Can a person have multiple personality disorder? Yes. Can a person give himself or herself pleasure? I'm serious. I mean, I'm sure. Like, but without consent, sure. And but people who hasn't have personality disorder or like some like dramatic ones like Dr. Jekyll and Hyde or like me, myself, and Irene, they might think it's if they're faking it or it's like Split. I didn't watch Split. I watched Glass. But imagine if it goes down to that extreme level. And I heard like I think Tony Robbins said it. I don't know if it's Tony Robbins. Like if people are multiple personality disorder, when they change the personality, they have a physical change too sometimes. Like they change the color of their eyes. That's something. So yeah, can a person be transgender? Yeah, with multiple personality disorder. Yeah, and rapes himself or herself, yeah, and it's like the female does it to the man. So in nowadays it would make us, it was actually, if it were to really happen, to splash all over the news, because the transgender people could get all riled up. The feminist people would be like, this is bullshit, why would a female would want to rape a man? But people with sympathy, because it's a transgender case, mental people, illness people would like get riled up, the activists. They have their agenda. And then the people, the men going their way, red pill people, they will have their agenda. So it's like a whole, this, what do you call it, this big old, not even a mess, this big, this it's like a platypus of a court case, legal case. But you might say, who the fuck cares? But it, like, what happens? Okay, think about this. What if there's a body, dead body, and you shoot it, and is that a crime? Shoot it multiple times, or you lacerate, is that a crime? If you're killing a dead person, is that a crime? You might say, one could argue, maybe he was not completely dead. One has to prove if he was dead, and if you kill a dead person, then it's not a crime. But how do you prove he's not a dead? He was not dead. Like back in the days, I read it in Roger von Oech's book, on a whack on the side of the head, or like, I think it's in the creative video book, basically, on whack packs. Like back in the days, like in the what, I think, not plague or something, like there was a lot of like mass graves, and like people were mass like dead bodies, and they had to get rid of them. So what they used to do, in the coffin, they used to put this nails, giant nails with like this, so that it would on the cover, so when they closed the lid of the coffin, it would impale them, just to make sure they were still dead. So why am I saying all these things? Because one could argue, like, is it a crime, hate crime, if a personality A chooses to hate personality B? What about auto crime? Like, what if the race, an Indian person hates an Indian person, really hates a person? Is that a crime? Who the fuck cares? If a black person hates a black person, is that really a crime? So I still don't see the point where you're saying, well, because we're dealing with two personalities in a body, and one could dismiss personality as saying, well, it doesn't matter because it's the same body. Who cares if they have different personalities? So, what makes a human human? Is it the soul, the personality, or the body? If you say the personality doesn't matter, it is the body, what if, well, then why, what about insanity? Or like, what if we were zombies with no personalities, and with no, like, with no engine to like marinate our limbs, and we were like blank slate, like a vegetative or like catatonic, and we committed crime? Would that be binding? People could say no, because there was no like engine, there was no consciousness. Well, if that's the case, what makes human human? Is it the personality, or is it the body, or is it a combination of both in conjunction with soul, or is it the capability of rational decision? Heck, one could even be, again, respect your local laws, international laws. Disclaimer: I'm not responsible for any of your weirdo crimes or anything. Like, fucking, if you misconstrue my ideas, and it's strictly for entertainment philosophy. Entertainment philosophy is nothing. It's just for uh for out of whim. So yeah, a person could just easily go on a murder rampage, mayhem, and just say, plead insanity, and say, hey, it was my other personality. That's just Jekyll and Hyde. Would that be binding? Legally, would that be acceptable in admissible in court, or dismissed? What makes a human human? So you see, it has grand, far-reaching consequences. Because if you were to accept personality and deny body, then what about robots? They don't have personality, but they have like a physical material component. And what if you're see, if I was an evil being with no physical component, or any appendages or anything, I was an abstract being, just like God, I can pretty much get away with it, because you cannot pin me down. I could do the most heinous crimes, and God is probably doing it, and he's getting away with it because you can't pin him down. He can kill. He becomes an abstract being, entity, all powerful, omniscient being. Maybe God is evil. Who knows? Also, another thing is like, and there's a case of consent, and like in that our case of Jack and Jill. Um, yeah, like people, and also it's like a reverse rape. Well, what I mean by that is female doing a fellatio on himself, on a male person without consent. It's kind of like indecent proposal. Is that the movie? Yeah. So would it be admissible? I think we should give it a proper hearing if it's a legit case, but then it has far-reaching implications. Like, at what point? So you can then the abortion case like point comes into being. Like, at what point conception begins, or else it's just a body, or like euthanasia, where like pulling the plug on a vegetable or a vegetarian person or a catatonic person. It's like they don't have personality and consciousness. Is it okay to just pull the plug if you're a parent, you don't want to see your son or children suffering? Or suppose the personality can be transferred to the computer, and like it's like a chat, like a chat bot which passes the Turing test. It has a personality, but it has no body. And now most people say, no, this is not a crime. This is ludicrous. This is berserk. This is bizarre. This is a weird anomaly. But why though? Why would that person would not have a fair hearing? Or what if he were attempt to kill him, murder him, forget raping, like, or sexual assault? Like, what if he were to kill him or attempt? Can that person be in a fearful, or like put a like or like if you're Siamese twin, if you wanna, if John and Peter and Pan, like Peter and Paul, if Peter wants to kill Paul, if you're Siamese twin, like wasn't that a movie like Heath Ledger and Matt I forgot him. Matt Damon. Yeah. What was it? I think I should watch that movie. I think that's gonna be a fantastic movie for me to watch after this. So yeah, what happens when things like if you're punching yourself or something, like what happens? Like Janus the Two-Faced. Now, if I one philosopher fucking laced out on acid can take it even further. Maybe we are all God. It's like a Klein bottle. Everything is one. Is God masturbating himself, God fingering himself, or like it's like a universe or self-aware universe, or the grand self is like a Klein bottle. It's giving itself a blowjob. Is God giving himself a blowjob? Is that what ultimately? Is that your profound realization after your DMT trip? That God is giving himself a blowjob, or like a goddess is fingering herself. That's what ultimately really is, because everything is one. So ultimately, it makes no sense from a non-dual perspective. If you kill someone, you can say, "Oh, he's part of me. I'm consummating my own flesh, consecrating, eating my own flesh." It doesn't. It's meaningless. But then it's like principle of explosion and absurdum. Absurdity leads to everything to absurdity. Anyone can pretty much get away with anyone. And is that why God forgives everyone? Because He realizes this simple wit. Maybe it's all meaningless ultimately. Then you chop a tree off, that's fine. But you you do the same hacking motion on a human. Oh, you're suddenly it's like whole world goes crazy. No one bats an eye. Whole world goes crazy. Why? What if plants had consciousness? But then it's because the blood doesn't splatter out, the gore is not. Okay, what if that Jack and Jill person, the transgender person, were to stab himself or like behead himself and then stop himself? It's just like the movie Me and Myself and Irene. Like he prevents himself, and like he hits himself. What would if that was real thing? Well, he'd be like, see, the first thing would be he'll be locked up actually in mental asylum. That would be the first thing. But what if they were what if one person was sane, another person was insane? Why should the same person, or like not the twin, Simon's twin? I'm talking about personality. What if that one person, the same person, is just a split? Because why should the same person be? Because he's still people, the materialists say, because the same person somehow is not sane, is unsane or insane, is projecting this insanity version. So the same personality is responsible for the insanity personality. It's almost like right now I'm talking, and all of a sudden, hey yo, maybe I should paste some pussy on the bread and just eat it with some Crayola. And then I come back to this personality, which is very sane and rational and calm and level-headed, and then all of a sudden I go like that. Why is it you lock me up even though? Because people say maybe you're not as sane and calm and rational level-headed as you may sound, because if there's a underlying deep. Well, what happens in the movie, spoiler alert, and again, pause this if you don't want me to spoil me, myself, and Irene. What basically happens is, just like most of the Jim Carrey movie, like Yes Man or other Lila, he doesn't want to get himself in touch with his shadow self. Because when you address your shadow self, you're being treated like a doormat, and this it builds up like a Joker. And one day you say, "Fuck this shit." It's funny how Jim Carrey is almost like Jim Carrey's own lifestyle. Who knows? Mirrors or mimics the timeline of his movies, reflects how it's the same underlying theme. So yeah, so yeah, that's what materialist psychology would say, because you're not dealing with your own shadow, and that's why this thing is propping up. So you're responsible for it. Would there even be a medication for it if someone were to behave like that? Can you even treat it? Is everything that's what the materialist psychologist thinks, like everything is like misfiring of neurons, brain chemical. But it's more, they don't see the holistic side, the whole psycho spiritual, other than obviously Stanislav Grof or transhuman psychology. Most people don't do that, and that's no wonder the world is in such mayhem and ashtray and is a fucked up clusterfuck place, because it's like we have a kindergarten level of attitude, whether it be medical, crime, like reformation. I mean, not reformation. The yeah, like prison reformation. All these things. We have a primitive, like children's children kindergarten notion. And when speaking of busting out a podcast, like when Joe Rogan, cornered Sapolsky and said, like, asked him, would the advanced civilization, and what would they think of us? Like, is over medicating, more medicating people, and this, and he said, he basically sharked away from the question. He fished away from answering it, and he said, like, I don't know, or something like that. But that was the deepest question that Joe Rogan asked Sapolsky. And that's the problem with people with MIT tenure or Caltech, Stanford. It's like they're so afraid to give opinions. It's like as if the fucking 10 lawsuits is aiming at them with in the barrel or something. They're staring at the barrel or something of fucking lawsuit or intellectual peer being a pariah to their peer, or how they made a peer at. And that's understandable. Most of the professor of PhD philosophy, they were so awkward. They have suffered from gaucheries and insecurities, because they're the nerds end up being the PhDs most of the time. I mean, let's be honest here. Yeah, you got your good-looking Lex Friedman, this James Bond Agent 47. Most people aren't like that. Most of the people, maybe there is a change now, but most of it's all the nerds and the geeks who end up with PhDs in philosophy or like say, physics, and they're so afraid to give out their opinions vociferously. But the whole point of philosophy is you fucking speak your whole mind. I want to see what you have to say, not what fucking like John Locke said in fucking 16 or like 1732, like in his book, and analyze on one sentence, like, oh, Locke believe in this and this in rationalism, rational post cycle, blah blah blah, with 20 jargons. And that's why most of the research papers, I understand if it's a serious research paper, medical, you need to have, it has to be prim and proper. But if you try reading a PubMed, it's like every word I'm getting off tangent here. Every you need to just reading a one line. You need to have like you need to look up 10 words just to read a simple sentence, and then they'll say, "Oh, that's because you haven't reached that depth." Well, I can very easily memorize vocabularies from dictionary and say something like say something like the Abecedarian the Abecedarian melitologist got stuck in a catacomb of xanthipy, which basically that if you, and you have to decipher it, which basically means the Abecedarian, the person learning ABCD, got stuck in a catacomb, which is basically, or it could be real catacomb, or it could be a metaphor like a meteonom of xanthipy, which is like shrews. Basically, got surrounded by nasty narcissistic women. So I mean, it's like most, but there are some gems like philosophical gems which are very lucid, and I think those are the real papers that make it. Try reading Raymond Smullyan's uh, "Is God a Taoist?" That's a very lucid paper. Okay, I got off way off tangent here. So yeah, going back to that, why do you even draw the line between two personalities? Like at what point, like the Sorites paradox, basically vagueness. At what point personality A becomes personality B? I mean, I don't know if like if a person were to see himself, forget about all this elaborate leisure demand and all this, filigrees and like of trans women, or like giving himself persiflage, reverse rape or whatever. Forget about all of this. If a person were to sue himself, that would not stand in court. That would not fly in the face of law. It's a self-referential lawsuit would never. There are, look up some outrageous lawsuits that ever committed, because some people wanted to sue God. You sue yourself. So people say, "Oh, philosophy is empty bullshit," but it has far-reaching legal consequences. Just like that case. What was that case? Shit. Protagoras, and some other guy. So basically, I think it's like this guy. He said he it was a legal case where um a person's yeah, Protagoras, I think he like he Protagoras learned philosophy from his master, and the master said to be a lawyer, and the a person said, and the master said, pay me back when you defeat your first when you win your first legal case. So Protagoras or someone, I think, he decided to sue his master. No, or the master decided to sue him, I think. And but the paradox was, if he if the master wins, he loses the case and he doesn't have to pay him. But if the master loses, then he wins and he doesn't still have to pay it or something. Oh no. If the master loses and he wins, then he has to pay him. Something like that. Just look up, like, yeah. I can't articulate right now, and the reason is because it has nothing to do with our original. No, but it does have to do with our original rambling and musing, uh, because that's what I'm doing right now. Because like um because I'm sweating, it's like I need to turn the car on. There's some AC in. Yeah. The reason is because yeah, philosophy has far-reaching legal consequences. The whole Maria Shriver case or something. Was it like mentally insane person or something? Yeah, the whole it has a and it's mostly philosophical in nature. Philosophy is basically the backbone and underpinning of psychology and even and logic and even and legal issues. Or if your personality is stalking you, like and if you're paranoid, you're constantly under fear. Would that why would not person, because the first thing people would society would do is lock him up. But and even if they have a like a sane counterpart, just like the one that I was making, illustrating earlier, it's like you can be no matter how sane, if you have some deviancy, it's like that's on you, that's pinned on you. So we think, because We think that we don't even know how we regard humans as. Is the humans a body or the personality? So we lock people out because of personality, because we think that's controlling the engine. But it's like weird. We live in a weird world where, or for instance, preponderance of evidence. You have to see beyond reasonable doubt a person holding a gun, shooting the bullet coming out from the gun or the firing, and then there's smoke coming from the gun, the bullet entering the body. That's real witness. Rest, and if there was no witness, it's almost like the crime did not happen. It's like if a tree falls in the forest and no one were to witness it, did the tree even fell down? I don't know. Why did I make it so long? I think there's an easier way to state that Zen Quan, or uh, the thought experiment. See, we are only learning to grapple with these issues in modern times because of the whole quantum physics thing. Because the quantum physics like embraces paradox and everything, and especially the Tao of Physics by Fritjof Capra. Because we have to. It's almost like reality is paradox. Reality is made up of paradoxes, rife with paradoxes. It's almost the substance, the ethereal substance or non-ethereal substance is like basically this abstract paradoxes. What if we are all concepts? What if the ultimate nature of reality is concepts, information, not even information, like thought, concept, and that's what God is. Like all he needs to do is thought. We're just like a thought play in his mind, in God's mind. Everything is abstract, everything. But that's one of the most radical psychedelic thing you can think without even taking psychedelics. What if reality was just a thought experiment, abstract thought experiment? I'll end it on that note. Thanks for listening. Please leave some comments as to what you think of this podcast, how I can improve, how I can de-improve. Because what if I'm what if too avant-garde for you? That's my personality coming out, and snorkeling. That's my crazy personality coming out. Fucking. What if I could de-improve? What if stop flooding me with all your DMs, y'all? Stop so much engagement and subscription and likes. It's making me crazy. It's making me crazy. It's making me suicidal. All right, yo. Ladies, stop hitting me on the street. I can't go out anywhere without being recognized. I'm so popular. Okay, that's enough. That's enough Adderall for you, Zishan, today. Thank you for listening.